Okay, let's talk cadences. This is an old homework that I just have resurrected. So we're going to use it for our cadence discussion for today. I put in the Roman numeral analysis, and your first step with cadences is to recognize that there are two ways to find them: with your ears, so by listening and listening for moments that sound like closure, and also with your eyes by looking at the score and especially looking at your analysis. The best way to be sure that you've got good cadence locations is a combination of the two. So I would share the sound with this, but if you've been watching these videos, you know that the sound is really wonky, so I'm not even going to try. But you listen to this for your homework, so maybe you can kind of dredge it up in your memory. Now, as I'm looking at this, for our purposes for this class, the only cadences we're dealing with are authentic cadences and half cadences. Both of those cadences deal with the 5 chord in some way. Your half cadence just stops on the 5 chord. Your authentic cadences go 5 to 1 in some way. So the first thing I'm probably looking for is a 5 chord, honestly. So I'm going to go through and I'm just going to mark any instances of a 5. So we've got this 5-6 over here. And we have this big dominant pair over here, a cadential 6-4 to a 5-7. Now, I'm just going to spoil it for you. The cadential 6-4 literally has cadence in its name. So if you see a cadential 6-4, that's a really, really strong sign that you have a cadence coming up. So now that we have these two instances of a 5 chord marked out, now let's see if they pair up with a tonic triad afterwards. I'm going to jump up to this first one at measure 12. And indeed, that 5-6 is paired with a 1 chord right after. And down here at the bottom, our cadential 6-4, 5-7 proceeds on towards a tonic triad. These both look like they could potentially be great spots for a cadence. Now, notice that I didn't say anything about this tonic triad up here that comes after the 4 chord. Not every arrival to tonic is going to be a cadence. There's no 5 in here. It's just a 4 directly to 1. So I don't even consider it for right now. We've located 2 spots that might be good candidates for a cadence. Now, another thing I want to talk about is Western classical music tends to really rely on this idea of 4-measure periodicity. Things tend to clump into groups of 4 measures. And you know that from your exposure to music in your ensembles, with your instruments, and in our class. This piece started out with an 8-bar introduction. The violin comes in at measure 9. And if we just quickly count 1, 2, 3, 4, measure 12 is 4 measures into the violin's entrance. So in terms of kind of that 4-bar normative phrase length, this is also now an even stronger candidate for a cadence. And then we go here, we get 1, 2, 3. At measure 4 is when we get that big dominant pair, and that lands on tonic on the next downbeat. So in terms of this 4-measure rotation, both of these highlighted in purple spots are good spots for a cadence. Now, the other thing to think about is what it sounds like. Not every 5 to 1 is a cadence. You've got to also bring in your listening skills. So if you were to listen to this melody, one thing you might notice is that right at this potential cadence spot, we do get a break in the violin. There is a textural break where it seems like if it were a wind instrument, perhaps they would breathe, but there is a clear break in the phrase itself. And then if you look ahead, look forward, look at all this material here. This is brand new. So it seems like there's a new gesture beginning here at measure 13. We're adding a different texture, a more active texture. There seems to be a lot more kind of going on as we enter into this next 4-bar phrase. So it seems like maybe these 4 measures are kind of self-contained, And then these next measures embark upon something different and new. If you were to listen to this too, I think you might hear that shift as well, and hear that this melody from measures 9 through 12 really does seem to kind of come to rest right here. Now, with that knowledge, then, okay, we decide, cool, this is a cadence spot. How do you tell what type of cadence it is? I'm going to scroll down and show you a nifty little flow chart that I just made. So you're going to ask yourself a series of questions. Your first question is, does it end on a 5? In this case, we go 5, 6 to 1. So our answer to that would be no. So we're going to go down this pathway. So if it doesn't end on a 5, that means it is some type of authentic cadence. But there are 2 types of authentic cadences, so we've got to keep going. So your next question, are the 5, 7, 5 or 5, 7, and 1 both in root position? So let's go up and look. We can tell by our analysis here that although this is a 5 chord, it is not in root position because T, or scale degree 7, is in the lowest voice. So this is an inverted 5 chord. It's a 5, 6. Because of that, we can answer this question with a no. We follow the no arrow, and that leads us to our answer, which is an IAC. So this is an imperfect authentic cadence. So I'm going to go in and put a nice label on this. 1 cadence down. Now let's look at this one down here. We have a cadential 6/4 to a 5/7 to a 1. Let's look at our flow chart again. Does it end on 5? No. Authentic cadence. Okay. Are the 5/5/7 and 1 both in root position? So I'm going to scoot up and look. Yes, 5/7 is in root position, so is in the bass, and 1 is in root position, do is in the bass. So we can answer yes to that. And that means we get to answer another question. Is scale degree 1 in the highest voice? So let's go ahead and look, and we can see the violin and the right hand of the piano actually both meet on the highest voice at this cadence, and they are both on scale degree 1 or do. So our answer to that question is yes, and that leads us to our answer, which is this particular cadence is a pack. And remember that the pack is our most final, most kind of aggressive, I guess, cadence. It has everything that we need to really feel certain closure. So if we look at this excerpt again as a big 8-bar phrase, we see that it kind of divides itself in half right around here, and we get a weak cadence first, and then we go again and we get a stronger cadence. We get this big cadential block, cadential 6/4 to 5/7 to 1, and scale degree 1 is in the uppermost voice. So we start out, we get a weak cadence, and then we come back 4 measures later and we land on a nice final cadence at the end. Okay, cool. I will see you guys in class.